So let's jump right into it. It is a beautiful day today. So let's jump over here. So, all right. So a little bit of a refresher. So, when you look at um, the things that you need to have to do our business. First off, you need to have the quick launch menu, which is going to give you access to pretty much everything that you need, minus your email client. So two things that you need to have is the quick launch menu. Uh, I always like to use that within a Chrome browser simply by going to agent.truPowur.com in the URL. And if you right click on this tab and pin it, the next time you open your browser, it will automatically be there for you. It may come up looking like this to where you have a Google search, but over here in the left-hand corner, it will be available to you there. The other thing that you need to have pinned down in your taskbar is your email client. So if you go in here and it hasn't been done already, just type in your search bar Thunderbird. And then once that opens up, you can see this icon down here. If you right click on that icon and pin it to the taskbar, when you close the program, then it'll remain right there. So it'll be really easy for you to gain access to. So between the email client and the quick launch menu, you have everything that you need minus your computer, internet, and USB headset to get rocking and rolling. So a couple of quick things on the right-hand side is more support type things. A lot of times customers will send you bills that have, may need to be cleaned up. Maybe they're an image, what have you. So if you click on the PDF tools, it is going to bring you to a suite of things that you can do. So you can compress the file if it's too large. If you need to convert it from a JPEG to a PDF when you're submitting the bills, because anytime we submit a bill into the system, we want to make sure that those bills are in a PDF format. Keep things nice and clean. The other thing is mostly in Texas. If you ever do need to look up an ESID number, you can certainly do so by simply adding in the zip code of the customer. And then start putting in the address, and if this happened to be the one that you were looking for, then you'll see that the ESID number is right there. So you can verify that for Texas markets. If you're having any kind of connectivity issues, first thing you want to do is probably check the speed of your computer. Make sure that everything is running like it should. And so if you should have at least 50 megs per second in order for everything to be running. So it looks like we've got a pretty good signal there. And then of course you have the past Zoom trainings, the corporate website, resources for the utility audit, and then of course the magic button to get to our training programs each week. Over on the left-hand side, you have all of the areas that you're probably going to access the most. And so what do we do when we start out? Well, the first thing that we want to do is from the CRM and dialer is start contacting customers and requesting an electric utility bill for an audit. So if we go to the CRM, then that is going to bring everything up here. Now, if you ever run into an issue where the customer can hear you, you can't hear the customer, you can hear the customer and they can't hear you, or vice versa, any kind of issues like that, odds are your headset is not pairing up. So if you come down here in the bottom, and each system might be a little bit different, but if you come down here and you look for your sound settings and open that, you want to make sure that your speakers and your microphone, everything is connected to your headset so that you can communicate with them correctly. Most times, once you plug in that USB headset, it should automatically sync up, but sometimes maybe an older system, maybe there's a glitch, maybe you need to use a different USB port. Sometimes a port will get a little junky and you have to change that. In one of my other computers, I know that I have one USB port that if I use it, they can hear me, but I can't hear them. So sometimes that just makes a difference trying a different USB port. Otherwise, just make sure that you double check your settings down here to make sure that you are tied in both for your speakers and microphone into your headset. A lot of the Plantronics and Logitech have a button on the cord. And so if you press that button, it will mute you. And then there's usually a volume up and down. I notoriously am always having this thing hang down to my side, and then my leg presses it against the side of the chair and turns the volume down, and then I can't hear anybody. So that happens. Anyway, so once we're ready to rock and roll, it's simply just a matter of going into your leads. You will see your leads here, and then so all you need to do is just start at the top of the hour and go to town. In here, you're going to have the script for the audit. I suggest that you rewrite this in your own tonality in the way that you would communicate. I think of scripts as really as a guideline and an outline, not necessarily that you have to be robotic and read this verbatim. And so when you're talking to a customer or getting ready to communicate and call that customer, all you need to do is click this green button. It will automatically pull up a dialog box and start to make that call. So if that call ends up, you can hear that ringing on the other system. So in a moment, that is going to go to voicemail. Now, sometimes people say they can't see the hang up or the drop. And so you may need to scroll your mouse down to be able to see that. But once you know that that has gone to voicemail.
You have reached the office of Matt Fox. He
So
is either on another
once
line
I
or
hear
away
that
from
it's
his desk,
voicemail, I can click the voicemail drop. It will disconnect me. I can go ahead and move on to the next call. And it is going to wait for the beep. It's going to leave a message for me with my name, my information, my extension, everything that you need to follow up with that customer. So anyways, so the next thing to do is after you've communicated to that customer and you need to send them a bill request, is once you have their email address down here, just simply click on the send email and it will bring up the list of templates. So you start with the first one. It is going to automatically put in the customer's information, your signature information, everything that you need. So really all you need to do is select from the drop-down and hit send. Now, if your monitor is slightly smaller than mine, then maybe you have to scroll down a little bit to see the send button. But once you click that send button, then it is going to send the customer a notification. So let's go ahead and click that. So once the customer gets that email, let me go ahead and open up this email client. So when that comes in, and so there it is. So there's the email. The customer is, reading along. And in a moment, you'll see a pop-up appear over here that basically is going to tell you that the customer is actually reading that email. There it is, boom. So the best time, even though you may be on a different profile of a customer, that is going to stay up there until you click it off or the countdown clock runs out. So it's basically going to give you 5 minutes to basically follow up with that customer. All you need to do is click on that and it will bring that profile back up so that you can go ahead, call that customer, ask them if they've had a chance to overlook the email that you sent them. You know that they are because they have it in front of them at that moment. So that's the best time to reach them, is when that thing pops up and they actually have that information in front of them. So a couple of other things to note here is when you are curious about the property, you can always hit this search, which will bring it up on Google Earth and Google Maps. And so you can always see a street view of the building. So you can go, okay, well, that's a legitimate building. It's not somebody's garage. And so if it looks like a company that is a huge, business, but it goes to an empty lot, that might be a little concerning. So this just kind of gives you a good idea as to what that business looks like. So when you're talking to them, you have some kind of an idea as to where they are. Sometimes I may even use that information as familiarity. So for example, if I'm looking and I see that, oh, I think I know exactly where you are. You're right across the street from the B of A building. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. I happen to know that because that's where our office is. And so it helps to build familiarity and knowing where they are. If you're doing residential, you can look at the size of the home. Is it a trailer? Is it a mansion? What is it that you're looking at? So that street view with the search map can be very handy. All of the calls that you make are recorded for compliance issues. So it's a good idea to always make your customer calls through the CRM. So that way, if there are any issues down the road, those recordings can be brought back and then used to make sure that you haven't told them. Customer says that you said they would get free electric for a year, and that's not what you said, then obviously we have a recording to back that information up. So anyway, so in most all of your commercial customers will have a utility expense. So it gives you kind of a good idea as to the size of that business. And then, you have some extra spaces to actually put information in there just to keep you abreast as you talk to that customer down the road. So all of your notes are down here in the bottom, so you can add notes about the conversation, any attachments or anything that you need to add to it. Any of the past recordings are going to be there for talking to that customer. All of the recordings from the conversations will be attached to that specific customer. So at the top, you do have the audit script. If you were leading in with the commercial, then obviously this is the script we would use, or the residential and or the solar. Now, mind you, I think we're going to be making some updates on the scripts because they really don't always flow with the way that we lead in with the customer. In other words, when you look at how we lead in with the customer, phase one is to contact the customer for an electricity utility audit using the script and a templated email. Once we submit the utility bill for audit, then we want to go and enter that customer's information into the pricing platform for a proposal. We do not do utility audits on residential. So that's important to know. We only do utility audits for commercial. But once you've gotten a copy of that customer's utility bill, it's very simple to go to step number 2, and that is to submit the utility for audit. Now, obviously, this doesn't take very long. You put your name, your email address, and then the customer information. Who is the decision maker? What is their title, email, phone number, a little information about their business, their address, and what type of company is it, and a little information. Now, a lot of times, if you have an email address of that customer, and it is frank at TruPowur.com, well, you know TruPowur.com is actually the domain, especially if it matches the name of the business. So if you went to TruPowur.com, you could probably look at the About link on the page and then copy and paste a little information about the business, just so that the auditors have a quick glance as to what kind of business it is, or just do a quick little write-up as to the description or any special notes that are key in that. Click on the electric because that's what we're going to submit. I don't worry about all of the other cost centers at this time. Only thing that we're concerned about is the electric and possibly the natural gas, but we can catch up with that in a moment. So once we select electric for the cost center, then all you need to do is click here, and it will bring up a search where you can actually drag and drop that bill onto here, and then submit it for audit. But now that you have a copy of that bill, what else can you do with that information? Well, you simply need to come back and go to the commercial pricing platform. And this is where we're going to submit the customer for a proposal. So having that information, all we're going to do is transpose that information into the platform. And so you're going to click on Add New Customer. Put in the zip code of that customer and what is their usage. In other words, when we talk about usage, we're always talking about annual usage, so not monthly. So if you're looking at a bill and it says that their usage is 25,000 kWh per month, times 12 is going to basically be about 300,000 kWh. So we can put that in there. And then the effective date, we can leave that as the default. The system is going to know based on the zip code that their utility is Encore. That's the utility, the one that sends the electric down the wire, the one that performs all of the emergency services. That's not the supplier. The supplier is the one that sets the rate for what you pay for that energy. So the name on the bill may be different than what you see as the utility. Odds are you're going to see both names, but just want to clarify that. So once we hit continue, it is going to just remind us that you've selected Encore as the electric delivery company. That's correct. And is this customer current in our system? Is this a current customer in the TruPowur platform? No. So now we have a place where we can put in that customer's information. I suggest that when you're entering data into the pricing platform, that you just go ahead and hit your cap locks. And so that way, when you're putting in information, it is going to be all in caps. And then you can continue to fill that out. I would much rather see it all in caps than to have somebody enter the information in lowercase like that. The correct way would be upper lowercase, but sometimes I see agents or brokers that enter information like this. And, you know, from here on out, all of their billing, all of their contracts, everything is going to look exactly the way you put it in here. So it's going to look a little odd if that is all lowercase. So just be mindful of that. And probably the best policy is just to put it all in caps, make it very simple. So we're going to put in the street address where the service is being rendered. If the bill happens to be, if it has a different billing address on that bill, say they have a different address for their accountant or bookkeeper or what have you, you do have a place where you can put the billing address if that's necessary. From here, you're just going to put in their mobile number, email address, and then hit next. I can't hit next because I'm not filling this out. But once you do that, it is going to basically verify the location. In other words, if I put in 123 Main Street, well, let's just try this. Whoop. All right. Let's see if I can trick it. And hit next. So it's going to give us a suggestion based on what we put in. So you can see that here it abbreviated drive, just go ahead and select the accepted one. And now it is going to ask for the ESID. Well, I don't know what the ESID is, but I certainly could find out if I went over here, put in the zip code, 555. There's Republic Drive. And now I could actually put in the ESID number. And then I would have to attach a copy of the bill. So I don't have one to put in there, but you would want to obviously attach a copy of the bill in a PDF format and then hit review. When you hit review, it is going to take you to a page that is going to look a lot like this. So this is where you're going to see all of the customers' information. And so now this is where you're going to create the proposal. So up here at the top, you have the ability to send an LOA, to send an LOE. So an LOA is a letter of authorization. The LOE is an exclusive letter, a letter of exclusivity. And so if they happen to be tied to a broker, in Texas, this is a more predominant than a lot of the other states that require an LOA and an LOE, but we don't need to worry about that right now because we're just going to be working on the proposal. So the first thing we want to do is to look at today's rates. So we're going to click on that, and this is going to bring up matrix pricing. Now, this particular customer uses 631,000 kWh annually. And so when we bring this up, it is going to bring us up with a little balloon notification if it warrants it. And some of the things that you're going to see are suggestions. These are not written in stone, but they are suggestions. And so it's basically telling us that a longer term contracts are trading at a discounted price The best rates in today market are seen with terms lengths of 48 to 60 months. And of course, we can verify that information by looking at the market trends and being able to delve a little more into what's going on in the marketplace. Since natural gas prices are on the rise, and they're going to continue to be on the rise, 50% of most all electric generation is created by natural gas. So there is going to be a domino or a trickle down effect to where the rates that we see for electric are going to increase. So in the audit, we're looking at getting money back for that customer for the errors that we find. But in the proposal or at the supplier side, we're wanting to save that customer additionally moving forward and or protect that customer from future price hikes as the market continues to go up. So a couple of things to note here is we know that we're in the right thing, the electricity, but if we were wanting to do natural gas, we could do that as well. And the effective date, you can see that there is a red asterisk, which tells us that there is future prices which are better than what we're looking at right now. Right now, we're looking at the best rate of 6.17 versus in December, it's 6.116. And then in January, it's going to be 6.09. So we can take advantage of that. And now it's going to make an adjustment to the platform. And you set your mills here. I have mine set at 3 mills. Your system will default to 5 mills, but you can certainly change that to how you see fit. So I would look at it first round at 5 mills. If you need to make some adjustments there, then feel free to do so. As we come down, you're going to see the 3 best overall plans are always going to be listed up here at the top. And you'll notice that you've got the rate per kWh, so it's at 6.294. The estimated amount of savings for that customer, that is for the life of the term. And so on this one, it is for 60 months. It's a fixed all-in 60-month contract. So $132,000 is pretty significant. And depending on supplier to supplier, there may be some that are upfront and that's some that are residual. So let me clarify something here. In pre-COVID, we used to have upfront commissions where we got paid a year's worth of commission upfront, and then the balance of that contract, in this case, if it was a 60-month term, excuse me, going into year 2, 3, 4, and 5, then we would see residual payments thereon. Since COVID, the suppliers have kind of changed the rules a little bit. I think that they were fearful that there was going to be a plethora of businesses that were going to go out of business. And so they didn't downgrade the upfront, but they upgraded the residual. And so when we look at upfront and residual, think of it more this way. Upfront is annual and residual is monthly. So if you select an upfront commission and it's a 60-term contract, that means if it pays out in October, that means on the anniversary date of that contract, every October, it's going to pay out X. So it's going to pay out annually versus pay out monthly. And the reason that they did that was so that if you got $15,000 or $12,000 up front and that customer happened to go out of business 6 months down the road, you wouldn't want to have to give back 6 months of your commission because there was a chargeback. We haven't really seen those kind of issues play in to the marketplace, but that's not to say that it can't happen. Residual is going to be paid out on a monthly basis. So if the customer goes out of business in 6 months for some reason, then it just discontinues to pay out on a monthly basis and you wouldn't have any chargeback. And for that, obviously, there are some benefits both ways, but that's your choice. When you go to contract, the very last button that you'll submit before you hit go is select, do I want annual or do I want monthly? In other words, upfront is annual, residual is monthly. So hopefully that makes sense. So this customer could save a pretty good chunk of money. I always choose residual. And so that would be a nice little residual payment there. So you can scroll down and see that there are a lot of available rates to us. Right now we're seeing 44 of them showing in the plan. But if I filter this out and select all, now we can see there's 120 different plans. Right now it is sorted based on price. So that means the price, what the supplier is offering. And so you'll see that as you scroll down, those rates are going to continue to climb and the amount of the savings is going to go down. Now, I prefer to look at things like maybe total commission. So you can look at these as total commission so that it's going to sort the total commission. You can sort it by savings. So it's going to put all the plans that have the greatest amount of savings at the top, which is very nice. And so you've got different things. You can go long-term, short-term to long-term. So I like the long-term contracts. I want to keep that customer in pocket for as long as possible. And so I need to create a proposal. So the first thing that I need to do is come over here on the right-hand side and generate a proposal. Simply click to select that. We're going to select fixed all in. Please don't select an index adder. I would probably even try to talk a customer out of it. But if you have a customer that is renewing a contract and you're talking about whether going with a fixed all in or going with an index rate, just remember last February when we had that cold snap and everybody went crazy and lost power and everything else. Well, you know, there were customers that typically have a $10,000 a month electric bill. When we had that cold snap, because they were on an index, rates went through the roof and those customers' bill went from 10 grand a month to 200,000 in 3 days. So they're not always the best policy. But I am going to select the size of contracts that I want to put in my proposal and click next. From here, I'm just going to go ahead and click next. Scroll down here and I can see that there are a couple of here that I want to look at. So if we look at, let's say, these three, I always like to have 3 on a proposal. Click next. It is going to include the chart and you can select whether you want 1 year up to 5 years in the chart. Sometimes you may want to include the chart, sometimes you may not. I'm going to include it for this exercise. So once you click generate, it is going to pull all of that data in and then create a 4-page report that you can now email to the customer. Once that is finished processing, you'll see that appear over here on the left-hand side of the screen. There it is. So it is now just done downloading. So let's go ahead and open that. And you can see that it's going to have the customer's name and information, what their annual usage is, and so forth. Scroll down, it is going to show the plans that are available and what the savings are. So you've got 3 suppliers here. Obviously, the best rate is going to be 6.2 0.29, it can save that customer 40%, $132,000 in savings over the life of that contract, or $26,000 per year. So that's significant. So, and it will also give them a 12-month budget analysis to show what their billing is going to look like moving forward for the next 12 months based on historical data. What they used last year is comparable to what they're going to be using moving forward. So anyway, and then you're going to have a graph that you can include with the proposal. So now you'll notice that the name of that is proposal. And so when you save it to your computer, I always suggest that you take and rename that. Don't send that PDF to the customer named proposal. Change the name of that PDF to whatever their name of their business is. So if it's PDQ Company, then change the name of that PDF to PDQ Company. If they receive an email from you and it says, take a look at the attachment, give me a call, we'll go over the details, and it says proposal, it feels more like a sales job. If you change the name to their company name, they're more apt to open that, if nothing else, by curiosity. And so once they start looking in this and go, wow, that's a tremendous amount of savings, what do I need to make that happen? Of course, once you've emailed that to the customer, remember, a pop-up is going to appear on your screen. So you'll know when they're looking at it so that you can call them and go over the details with them. So ultimately, at the end of the day, when you get the bill for the utility audit, right? We're in the CRM. We're going to get the bill for the utility audit, and then we're going to upload it to the auditors, and then immediately do the proposal, email that to the customer. I like to just send an email with that attachment that just says simply, take a look at this, give me a call, go over the details. I know as soon as they open it, I'm going to get a notification so I can call them right away. Now, it should take you 2 minutes to upload it to the auditors, maybe take you 10, 15 minutes at first when you first trying to get used to doing a proposal and sending that. So, and then I like to follow up with that customer immediately upon sending that proposal to the customer and let them know that I received a copy of their utility bill, safe and sound. It's already been submitted to the auditors. In fact, in the initial investigation, and here's where I'm going to bridge from the audit to the supplier side. In fact, in the initial investigation, we also uncovered some additional savings in your electric account. I emailed you some information. When you have a chance, take a look at that. Give me a call. We'll go over the details. And so that's when they open that, they look at that. Now you can go over the details that the utility audit is on the utility side. There are two parts to an electric bill. You have the utility side, and then you have the supplier side. So we're going to take care of the audit based on the utility side. That's why you can do a utility audit in all 50 states. Doesn't matter whether it's regulated or deregulated because it's done at the utility level. The supplier side is a proposal that basically shows that customer that we can save them additionally, $132,000, but does not tell them how. And so when the customer, looks at this, they're going to want to know, well, what do I got to do to make that happen? Well, my response is, well, the how is not so important as much as when do you want that savings to start? Well, I'd like the savings to start now. So if you click on sign up, it is going to automatically pull the contract for that supplier for that state. It's going to fill it out for you and send it to the customer for an electronic signature. So you do need to tell the customer that we need their authorization to apply those discounts. And so you're going to get an electronic email. If they will open that and approve that with their signature, then we can go ahead and process this to add that additional savings to their account. Their utility, everything else is going to remain exactly the same. They're just going to continue to save money. And that's a huge benefit all the way around. Once that is done and it is complete, then you will see that it will go from pending to signed. So once it shows sign in your back office, then it's time to go back to the customer one more time and let them know that all is going well with the audit. Remember, the audit takes about 30 to 60 days, depending on the complexity of that audit and the statute of limitations state to state, going back 3 to 4 years. But want to just let them know in the communication that all is progressing well with the audit. But I see in their account that there are actually some additional cost centers that can potentially increase the amount of the refund. So we want to make sure and go through this list to see if the customer is actually using any of these things. So let me ask you, do you use natural gas? Sure. How about water and sewer? Absolutely. Waste removal, dumpsters, that kind of thing. Telecom, wireless, yes. Shipping, no. Financing, no. Cost segregation, no, no, no. Property tax assessments, no. Merchant processing fees, absolutely. Payroll, 401ks, health insurance, workers' comp policy premiums, any or all of these additional items have the potential to increase the amount of the refund. Mind you, sometimes customers will give you the response that, well, let's just finish with the electric and then we'll talk about, doing some of the other things. Well, truth of the matter is I have actually seen where there were no errors in the electric account and huge errors in some of the other cost centers. And so if there are additional savings and refunds that are available in some of those other cost centers, how long do you want to wait to make that happen? If it takes 30 to 60 days to get an answer that potentially, as there are no errors, continue to do what you're doing, are you going to be inclined to want to move forward with the other areas? Probably not, because you're judging one thing on the other. It'd be like judging the neighbor on the left side of you based on what the neighbor kid on the right is doing. Not fair. So you just need to be mindful when you're talking to them that each cost center is independent and not relative to the other. And so it's important to get all of those things submitted in order to do a full audit. Once that is done, especially if they do have natural gas, then we want to go back and basically do the same thing, but for their natural gas. But once the customer is in the system, we don't need to start from scratch and re-enter that customer's information. All we need to do is come down here to where the customer's information is, click on their account number. This contract number is internal. This is not their contract number with the supplier. This is just internal. And so when you click on that, it is going to bring up their account information. And right here on the right-hand side, you'll see where it says add new service. So if we're going to be adding natural gas, then we just want to click that and then go through the process. So because you already have all of their information in the system, there's no need to do it twice. So it's very simple to add the natural gas once that is done. Once you've completed the natural gas side of it, at this point, you can pretty much talk to the customer about anything, because every time you talk to them, you're providing value, you're providing savings, and protecting them from future disaster. So that's when you want to talk to them about their residence, electric and natural gas. Now, it's important that if you have a customer who is the business owner, and you can see that commercial rates are far lower than residential rates. And so you can't do it for everybody in the company, but for the business owner only. Once this is signed off by the supplier for the electric, then you can do that business owner's home at the same rate that they have their business. So that's going to be a huge, huge, huge savings for that customer. So that could save them 30, 40, 50, 60%, just depending on what they are, what they're set up on their home, assuming that their home is within the same utility. So bear that in mind. So any questions up to this point?
Hello, Matt. Can you hear me? This is Clarence.
Hi, Clarence. I enjoyed your video.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for your feedback on it. When you mentioned the part, I love the part when you said exactly how to go back as soon as you get the bill and get the proposal to them. Because I got up to late start, I did a test on the script where I'm able to get the email and send it over. Now, I need you to look over my shoulder for a second, tell me I'm on the right track with this up to this point. I want to give these guys like a 72 window to look over the information from the link and let these guys know that I have a 72-hour window to get your audit in your particular area. What's a good time to follow up with you, let's say Wednesday? And they commit that to me is that the time I should get the bill in? Because I feel like that's the quickest way that I can get that bill over to me within at least a 48-hour window.
Well, if you are using the formatted, if you're using the email system, so let me go ahead and pull that up from the drop down.
Okay.
It is actually going to give them a choice of either attaching a copy of the bill to this email and sending it to you, or they can actually click on the link and upload it themselves.
Okay. Now, how do you get the client to actually get the bill over to you the fastest way possible? Because I'm right now waiting. All these guys are sending out second emails. And so I say the only way that I can get these guys to move quickly is letting them know I got a 72-hour window in your particular area to get you out of there. What's the good time Wednesday?
Well, I think if you put I mean, that's nice to apply some pressure to get them to move quickly, right? And ultimately that's what you're trying to do.
Right.
The problem is, what happens after 72 hours? Did I miss my window? Now we can't do anything. Sorry. Okay, goodbye.
Okay.
So you don't want to put them in a box you can't get out of.
Okay.
So what could you do that would be beneficial to the customer at that point? Well, if I'm looking at a customer, and let's say, for example, I see this customer has a utility expense of $50,000 here, and say, you know what, if you can get that over to me, we've got a special deal going on right now as a wonderful incentive. Depending on the size of the customer, you can use these incentives, but make them fit the bill, right? So if somebody has a $2,000 a month electric bill, you're not going to send them a $10,000 vacation. That's just out of whack. So, make the occasion fit. But in this case, if I had somebody who had a $10,000 or a $50,000 utility bill and say, hey, look, we've got a special promotion that runs out. If I'm talking to them on Monday and say, I've got a special that runs out by Friday. If you can get that utility to me before Friday, 5 o'clock, the company is actually giving customers a airfare plus 2 nights hotel for 2, vacation, which is like almost a $2,000 trip. So we've had huge success. 70% of the bills that we audit result in a substantial refund. And we want to make sure that we're providing the value. So that's a promotion that runs out this Thursday or Friday or what have you. So take advantage of these promotional items. And that I think that might be a little bit better to get that customer to move forward rather than putting that customer in a box. Because if the 72 hours run out, now what? Now you got to backpedal back into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least this way, you're still moving forward. They just lost the potential of some incentive or a thank you for moving quickly. That doesn't mean that you put yourself in a box,
Okay. Okay. Now, thank you for the information. That really helped out. Now, I have some customers that said, well, how do you guys get the money? You went over before, and I looked in our information that was provided to us, and it says all we ask is that we share 50% of any refund, and we ask to share in any monthly reduction at a rate of 50% for 24 months. After 24 months, you will keep all your future earnings. Could you break down a little bit the 50% and the 24 months, how that works within the audit payments?
Yeah, so on the electric and natural gas, it's always going to be 50% of the audit going back, right?
Okay.
But there are some cost centers that don't go backwards. They look at present and move forward, like merchant processing fees. And so those are the items. So that's kind of bundling it all into one saying. But like merchant processing fees, whatever discounts and savings that we provide them, then we would have 12 to 24 months worth of 50% of that savings moving forward, because we don't go backwards we can't go backwards 3 years on merchant processing. So there are some cost centers that look at today and moving forward. But on the initial phone call, keep it very simple. The electric and natural gas is something that we look back 3 to 4 years. And so that's why I don't talk about all of the other cost centers on the initial phone call, because their brain will melt down and then you'll lose them because it's just too much information to try and process. So if you can keep it very simple, and then once we do the audit, so they're not going to be obligated to anything no matter what anyway. So once we've completed the audit, there is going to be an agreement. Once we know that there are errors and what the amount of the refund is, then they're going to sign off on it. So they're going to get one of two answers: either congratulations, there are no errors, continue to do what you're doing, you got a clean bill of health, or here are the errors and the amount of the refund, do you want to move forward? Never had anybody say no, they didn't want their money back. So just be mindful of that. But that is really referencing both sides of all of the cost centers. But just so that you and everybody else knows, the electric and natural gas, the statute of limitations state to state allow us to go back 3 to 4 years.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that, Matt. Appreciate it.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Anybody else? Okay. So let's jump into the front of the platform, which is right here under residential, button number 4. And one of the things that I want you to be mindful of is to make sure that you put in your sales code, which is the same as your extension. So once you apply that, or better yet, if you don't apply that and you enter a residential, because all the residential is through the front of the platform, that's the client or the public facing side of the website. The back office is where we enter in all of the commercial stuff. Now you can enter a commercial deal through the front of the platform, but we can do a lot more with that in the back office. So we use the platform in the back office when you're doing commercial. But all the residential is done through the front of the platform. That was really designed to make sure that we don't put commercial rates on residential deals and residential rates on commercial deals. We used to have access to both in the back office, and people would click the wrong button, and next thing you know, you've got suppliers looking at me like I'm an idiot. So anyway, so make sure that you have that sales code applied so that it will end up in your pipeline and in your back office. So anything you do in the front of the platform will show up in the back office. And the process is really simple. Just simply add in their zip code, click get rates, and for the most part, you are not going to need to change anything on their usage because it's all based on 100% of their usage, and it's a flat rate. And so the only thing that you need to know is what are they currently paying for their energy? And so again, using some of those incentives, I talk to people all the time and say, how do you feel about your current electric? Well, they feel like they're going to get sold, and say, hey, look, my company's got a promotion going on right now. If the rate you have is lower than what we're offering, then we'll give you $100 in restaurant cash. If the rate we're offering is lower than what you're paying, we'd like for you to take advantage of it, apply those discounts and savings, and save some money. Either way, you win. So why wouldn't you take advantage of it? So let me ask you, what are you currently paying for your electric? Well, most people are going to respond with, I pay, $75 or $175 or $575 or whatever it is. I don't want to know how much it costs to fill the tank. I want to know how much are you paying at the pump, right? So, so a lot of them are not going to know. A lot of them aren't going to know how to find it on the bill. They don't know what they're looking at. So if you need to assist them, then simply go right down here to this orange button or goldish bronze button and click on that, and that will pull up the averages for the nation. So if I'm talking to somebody right now in Texas, I can see that 1175 is the residential rate average for Texas. And so you got residential, commercial, industrial, transportation. So everything's broken down. And this is updated every quarter. So now if I want, I can put that in here and then hit requote. And now it will actually show me what the savings would look like. So if they don't know, look at that, put in the current rate, hit requote, update the platform. It is always going to put the 3 best deals at the top so that you can just take a look at that, or you can scroll down to all of the available rates. Obviously, I would like to have this customer on a 36-month term, but the best rate is 12 months. So just depending on, is this a renter or is this a homeowner? So if they're a renter, most people rent or leases are year to year. And so you may want to only put that customer in there for 12 months. If they're needing a little bit longer term protection, maybe I'll go to a 36-month term there. So it's very simple. Simply click on sign up. Customer says, hey, that sounds great. I'd love to save that money. Put in their authorized user information. I just basically put in their name. And then again, down here, their first name, last name, the service address. If the billing again goes to a different location, you've got that. their phone number, which is their landline, their cell phone number, and their email. If they do not have a landline, just put the mobile number in both locations. But it's important to have, all right, so put in their mobile number in both the phone number and the mobile number and their email address. And then Texas is going to ask you what kind of dwelling is in a house or an apartment. Make the selection there and then click next. Once you do that, just like we did before, where it's going to just verify the address, it's going to compare. And then once you've selected that, it's going to click submit. You are done. It is that simple. So one thing to be mindful of when you submit this, the system is going to send the customer an email verification link. This is important. So while you have the customer on the phone, just simply tell them, looks like my system sent you a verification link. If you would go ahead, open your email, click that link and read back the response for my records. They're more in tune to reading back the response than they are what they're clicking. In other words, sometimes people get a little weird about clicking things in their email, but you are talking about their electric and applying savings and discounts to their current utility. So click that link and read back the response for my records. Two things. One, make sure that they click the link. Because without them clicking the link, it's going to stay in a pending state. In about 3 days, it's going to end up a dropped account, and nothing is going to happen. You'll have to start all over again, which is kind of a pain. So if you've got them on the phone, have them simply click the link. It will read the IP address of the customer doing that and will immediately that basically becomes the execution of the contract. You will see a copy of everything that goes to the customer in your email. Do not click the link for the customer. I'm going to repeat that. Do not click the link for the customer. That is fraud, and you will be terminated without warning. I mean, that is such a big issue. So it's important to know that you cannot click the link for the customer. That is considered fraud. So anyway, so putting in residential is really pretty straightforward and simple. Not very complicated. They're typically going to be a one-call close. So especially in the beginning, I would say that you would want to spend probably a good 75% of your time filling your pipeline with commercial accounts, but take some time and work on some of the residential stuff. I mean, most of them are going to make, $50 to $100 per household. You do a few of those a day, you've got money coming in all the time. That's always a nice thing to have happen. So especially while you're working on some of the bigger deals, it may take a week to 10 days to facilitate getting that customer to get their utility bill back to you and get that uploaded to the auditors, and then creating the proposal and getting them to sign off on that as well. So this can just add more business to the coffer. Unlike the competitors, you do have an upfront commission and you do have residual income as well. So always makes it nice to have money coming in on a constant basis. Any questions about the residential side of it? So going back over to the CRM, there are some places for you to get additional information. So if you go up here where it says documents, there is all kinds of information for utility audits, brochures, all kinds of information. The solar program, the free solar program, and some training information. So we usually, when we record them, put them on YouTube, and we'll also put those links in the historicals here so that you can kind of go back through and look at different trainings, especially if you're looking up something specific that you're wanting to look back on. So that is available there. From the main menu, you also have this little tab for videos. And so there are some additional videos that are very helpful that can walk you through some of the items pertaining to the pricing platform, as well as if you're doing any kind of marketing on social media or you're just wanting to put it out there. We have videos that are made up for you for the holidays. We have Halloween coming up, and so you have one that you can download and put on your social media.
There's something about Halloween that seems to bring out the child in each of us. Maybe it's the suspension of reality, the exercising of our alternate dark personas, or maybe it's just the candy. Anyway, please know that in our virtual neighborhood, our light is on and our bowl of treats is forever full and available to our valued customers, both present and future. We hope you all enjoy the magic of this evening. Thank you all for the treat that you've given us over the last year. We are forever grateful for your business. Be well, be safe, and of course, have a most excellent Hallows Eve.
So there you go. So you've got, all the holiday videos there that you can use if that's something that interests you. So we've covered quite a bit here. We are on the hour. Have a wonderful weekend and stay safe. And we will talk again next week.